while. I've been busy.
Yeah.
You know, schedules. all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What's been up?
Yeah, no, I've been busy as a little busy little bee myself. God, I can't even say it. For those of you who don't know him, this is our friend Malachi. Malachi has a stream called Malachi's Toy Box that we run kind of sporadically. And once we found out he's coming by, we're just like, we're gonna fit him in. So yeah. I don't know if this will be a regular occurrence. Probably not, but nonetheless, I'm really happy to have you, man.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Good to be here. Glad you're on the show.
Heck yes. What are you working on?
Oh man, a number of things. I'm actually I got a lot of projects just out in the float.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I can't set my focus on one, so I'm just kind of like jacking them all around.
Yeah.
Right here, what I got is I brought in something that I actually worked on some time ago.
Mm.
It's a custom-made He-Man. Actually, I shared on the show before,
Mm-hmm.
where it was actually a consolidation of like a couple figures, like from Star Wars to Marvel Comics.
Excellent.
So what you're looking at here, basically, you got a consolidation of pretty much Star Wars, Marvel, X-Men, and Thundercats. I can kind of tell you how all that came about.
Yeah.
And it's real simple. You take a little deal where you got a little Wolverine body, and I took a Anakin Skywalker head, Anakin Skywalker figure, stuck it on there, and the little sword he has right here is actually one of the dual swords that Retaro had from the old 80s cult classic Thundercats.
Love it.
Bigger figure, so on him was pretty much side daggers. This guy right here is his power sword. And that's 3.5 inch. But yeah, put all those together and a couple of bottle caps.
Mm-hmm.
Like your common orange juices, the cartons.
Oh.
You kind of got the little plastic piece when you reach in there.
The pull tab. That's awesome.
Yeah, I cut the circles off.
Yeah.
Kind of intertwined them and actually glued them to them.
Yeah.
Some other things off of the plastics of the bottle and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
actually we did all that. Just did the whole coat of painting.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually we painted them up. You got the 3.5 inch He-Man.
Heck yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's.
I got some other things we're making, but you got like a whole. That's pretty detailed, man. I didn't even check that out.
Yeah, man. I thought that looks so professionally done. I never would have thought that was because when we were talking for a little bit before the show started, you were pulling out all your figures. I thought that was one of the ones that you'd yet to pull apart for the kit bash. Once you were breaking that down, I was just like, so that's what you're gonna do, and then it finally hit me like that's a done figure. Like that looks like something I'd pay $12 for from Hasbro. Yeah, no, that's excellent.
Cool, man. So you see it as is. But my other thing is I just kind of like in most cases get out of the box, create original. In doing this, of course it generates from actually recreating a 80s cult classic.
Yeah.
Where the figure then was probably like yay high.
Right.
You condense it down to be like 3.5 inch, where it's fully posable. An action figure.
Yeah.
Now, actually deriving from these type of deals, you get your ideas and just do some original stuff.
Uh-huh.
So you come out of the box, man, just come with something that's like unseen, unheard of, whatever, or you can do spin-offs like the whole Thundercat genre.
Yeah.
Pretty much created a whole planet of Thunderians with different names, but just different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like being a spoiler here, but you hear me?
Gotcha.
Not well enough.
I have a Velcro knife.
Velcro.
Oh, cool.
And I wonder if it'll stick to your hand.
It probably will, and it does.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good idea.
Cool.
That's a good idea.
So, technical issues. We're going to go ahead and fix these.
Yeah.
Thunder thing?
Right on.
The thing that's plugged into, right?
Okay.
Ooh, that's dope. Yeah.
Space Race Falcon 9 in the sky.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we good?
I
Can
was
anybody
in
hear
the
me?
office all day, therefore did not see the Falcon 9 new.
Right on. Cool.
Nice.
All right, so technical difficulties sorted. We've got ourselves a new radio pack on him now.
Yeah. George is a tad low. There we go. Super cool. Mm-hmm. Right. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly her.
That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, it's just a different.
Awesome. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's gonna be exactly
That's
it because
gonna
it's
be her.
just a color palette shift. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, not at all. Yeah. No worries. While we're having both. It's cool. I like it. Yeah. That's dope. While we were doing that, I want to point out that T-Mad actually was making highlight clips, which is a cool feature that we started doing, of people just cutting and posting really cool highlight videos. And T-Mad 40 Blue, one of our most regular, most loyal, most generous patrons, actually included you in one of the highlight videos. So he gave you a quick shout out. The chat hasn't scrolled up with people pointing out the microphone stuff, and thank you all for doing that as always. But yeah, man, George, you got one of the highlights. That's awesome. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I think I know if it's still too low. I think I know an objection. We won't be able to make your packs if it's still too low.
Yeah, let us know, everybody. Tommy, oh,
You hear me?
nice.
Am I on? It's plugged in as much as you can.
Let me see your pack real quick.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's a.
I don't
Check
know.
it out.
I don't know if it's turned all the way up.
Did
That
I
might
just
be
say
an
It got
issue.
T-Mad?
weird.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tommy. I think I called him. I think I called you out as T-Mad.
T.
Yeah,
That-
it's your mic volume was turned down all the way
Yeah.
down.
Oh wow! Look at that. That's
Gotcha.
cool.
Gotcha.
Are we good now?
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
just
Out of my
sorry,
way.
Tommy.
No worries. We're good. Moving on. We good. Moving on, women. Moving on.
I
Like
apologize,
Jefferson.
Tommy. I called Tommy T-Mad. He's being generous, and he says, oh, okay, but no, I'm sorry about that, my dude.
Okay.
Super cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah,
this other
yeah.
figure you got back here looks a lot like a T800 or T600 actually.
This one here?
Yeah.
Actually, that's the that's one of the Terminator.
That's
And
dope.
what I'm going to actually be doing today is, if you notice, that he's he's pretty much all blacked out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When I found him, he was blacked out, had his weapon. I was like, pretty cool. I was like that, and you can look, if you can kind of see down all of his cuts and his gears and everything.
Mhm.
Pretty much every detail, every the way he's been constructed is just like the real deal. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So one thing I felt that was really cool about it is, if you look at his eyes, they have the little bitty red dots that's already there. So I was like,
Oh.
the only thing is missing. I mean, dude, take a model car, right? Well, I got the silver paint,
Nice.
and I'm actually going to take my smallest brush and I'm going to fill them in
Oh, nice.
the areas where he needs to be painted.
That's dope.
But you really have to took a couple snap shots off
Mhm.
the internet basically on his image, because
Mhm.
if you really look at, he looks mostly chromed out.
Right.
But if you really pay attention, it's kind of like some black in there. It's like certain areas where they didn't.
Gotcha. Okay.
So otherwise, we just take him and just go dip,
Yeah.
and it'd be a done deal. And
Right.
rub his eyes off.
Yeah.
But you got to get that little detail in there. So I'm going to attempt
Definitely.
to go ahead and pull that off.
20
Cool.
seconds.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Good.
So yeah, man.
Like
pretty
20
big.
seconds.
That's pretty
late
much
as
it. For today anyway, and that's just
Mhm.
what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
That's super cool.
But man, I've been promising for the longest a lot of these spin-off, these storylines and different things I haven't played, man, and
Definitely.
they're just works in progress. And man, when once you guys get an eye full of that, I might like that.
Yeah.
So.
That sounds
Thank you,
awesome,
man.
man. Yeah. Do you
Someone else is
write? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Do you write backstories for all the figures you make?
I actually do, because
Excellent.
that's maybe my main thing, man. I'm a writer. I love to write.
Excellent.
So yeah, it just gives me something to actually right about.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's my favorite thing to talk to content creators about, which is just like, we're not always blessed with like work all the time. What do you do to stay sharp? Like how do you practice? Like that's my favorite thing to find out. Just like what do you personally do? So that's awesome. That's super cool.
This is visuals, man.
Yeah.
Seeing it as you wanna. Yeah.
That's so super cool.
Ooh, thanks. Man.
Yeah. Well, we're happy you can make it out. I was, we often ask, just like, when are we doing it next? He seems up for it. We just didn't know when.
I just, man, getting back in the groove of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna be going down a whole lot more often.
Oh yeah.
It'll be fun.
For sure. I'm sure you're doing something selfish like raising your children and working or being a married person and something like that.
Yeah, do all that stuff, man. Lock it down,
Yeah.
That's your life.
No doubt.
C'est la vie, c'est la guerre. So, last time on Paradise, we were finishing up my character, and because he's been playing we did that over 2 shows, building up my character for D&D, and because he's been playing for about as long as I've been alive, Chris Anderson jumped in, our very own Cranderlord, and built a character in about 2 hours. So, where does it leave us with our D&D campaign?
Well, your characters are pretty much done. We just need a couple more players to join us. But we were it's really, at this point, all I have to do is fill you guys in on the world itself and let you guys know, the sort of situation you guys are going to be finding yourselves in.
Awesome.
I have yet to really pick a location as to where we're going to start.
Gotcha.
And
are you for sure going to take one that's pre-existing, or do you want to write a whole new one?
Well, that's the thing. 90% or more of the world is not exactly filled in yet.
Interesting.
The thing about D&D, especially because I created my own world to really play in, is that I started by essentially just drawing a map.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Let's go ahead and just place that right there.
Yeah.
So this is the original sort of map of the world that I had come up with to build. It's a simple little line drawing. Made some notes on the side just to so I know what the temperature bands look like. So I was like, okay, well, this area's got temperate climate. This area's got more of a tropical climate. And this was sort of the area this is the continent of the world that I built. And I just kind of said, well, I mean, this is the world. Where do I want to drop my players in? And because I built this for my very first D&D campaign.
Oh.
As a DM, that is.
Oh, okay.
So
is this an original, or did you recopy it?
No, I basically all of this is freehand, just drawn.
I'm sorry. Is that the original map that you drew way back when?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This is it. I mean, I basically just pulled out just opened up this sheet of graph paper, and then just started drawing coastline. That was it. I just started drawing coastline, and I filled in the details afterwards.
That's beautiful, man. Man, you and that guy who builds worlds from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Slarty Bart fast, man.
Yeah.
So,
you
wouldn't even, man. It's so
that's
on every corner of the square. Squares actually can kind of see how, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's definitely Tolkien-esque, Good for you, man.
Yeah. And when I didn't bring it today because I couldn't find it, but I actually, when the time came to actually run the campaign, and we were actually going to be in an area for a long time, I actually made a blown up larger version of just that area, which turned out to be this small portion of the map here, which I then blew up into a full 8.5 by 11 sized map that had all the cities and everything else in it.
Nice.
And I mean, when I first made this, I basically had this sort of idea that I'm going to, you can see the grid right there where I had marked out that area so that I knew, okay, this is the area that I need. So when I blow this up, I can copy the coastline more efficiently onto a larger paper. And that one I actually did eventually get around to coloring in.
Nice.
This one is just the original ink drawing, and I didn't actually pencil anything originally. Everything was done in ink.
Good for you.
Oh, nice.
That's a level of care and quality that's really awesome.
Oh, the sort of philosophy there was that any mistake that I make on the large map is just going to become a feature in the world that I'll have to
Nice.
explain later.
Totally organic. That's brilliant, dude.
It was.
Clean.
It was like, okay, well, the path of the mountains. How do the mountains look? How the path of the rivers, how the coastline looked. Everything was just okay. I will draw it in pen, and any mistake I make is just a feature that I just didn't think of.
Love it.
And so yeah, the original campaign started around here. There's a little area right there at the base of the mountains where it meets the forest area below it, and there's a little village in there. It's called actually the dot right there is Atha, and they started in a little village, basically a stone's throw next to it, and that was Tome Village. That was where they started the campaign.
Nice.
And Atha was the first big city they got to, so I put that on the map.
Excellent.
I should really put in more cities, but I just didn't get to it at the time. But yeah, that's where the very first group of 5 players that I got together to play the campaign started, and it was a bunch of first-time D&D players. They'd never played before.
Nice.
They'd heard of the game, had no clue, and I just it was my first time DMing, and I just said, okay, well, this is the world. You guys are going to start here, and the place where you're going to start in is a little village called Tome Village. It's outside the big city of Atha, and you guys are looking for a lost caravan.
Cool.
Go.
Love it.
Basically, I just said, okay, you guys are all part of an adventurers guild, because I don't want to have to explain why all you guys are journeying together. So I drew up a contract, which I should probably have on this computer somewhere. I'll see if I can pull it up. I keep hearing Natella Village. Yeah. It's actually the city of Atha, and it's Tome Village, but yes.
That's going to be funny, though.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Nutella.
Yeah,
I see that spiraling deeply out of control in chat. People asking us, checking up on that sweet, sweet Nutella Village.
That's,
Yeah.
it is.
But you know what? You remember that village, that lake I was telling you about where your character is from?
Yeah.
That's right there on the map, right there.
Oh, heck yeah.
So in the
I
middle.
was wondering if you would ever do that, because I know that you know.
Yeah, right there in the center of that giant lake, there's actually a small island which is not on the map, and I'll probably draw it in the next couple of minutes, where the city that your character is from is.
That's beautiful.
So it's right there in smack dab in the middle of this giant lake. And again, each square, by the way, there's a legend on the bottom which says how big each square is. I believe it's 300 miles on a side.
Excellent.
So yeah, 300 miles on a
300
side,
miles,
about
2 weeks, 13 days.
13 days of travel per
13 days
square.
a square. Excellent.
So
heck yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and none of this is required as you as a DM, right?
yeah,
It's
no,
awesome.
this was basically just me sort of brainstorming, and this is how I did it. I started off drawing a map. I came up with some names of places, and then just said, okay, where am I going to drop these guys in?
Yeah, yeah.
And I figured, okay, well, let's drop them in here. I put them basically at the bottom end of the largest kingdom in the world, and said,
cool.
okay, let's see where they go from here.
Nice.
And originally my thought was that they're just going to do a bunch of, small-time quests and just kind of go on. But then as I started to realize that these guys are going to be committed and they're actually going to stay here for longer form stories, I started writing a longer story campaign. And the main sort of lead into it that I had was that one of the characters decided, I want to be a noble.
Cool.
And my the friend that she brought in was yeah, and I'll be her brother.
Cool.
I said, okay, so I've got a couple of noble brothers who are part of the campaign. And originally I had them just as they were a couple of hostages that were rescued from the caravan. That was how they got into the campaign. And then once the main swing of things really started going, I'm like, okay, well, what's the sort of hook here? So I said, okay, well, we have 2 nobles who were rescued by a bunch of adventurers. They're going to remember that, and so when a mission comes up that they have to go across country to go and find another one of their relatives, they're going to go and call on these adventurers that they've already met and have a relationship with.
Right.
And that was the hook. So basically these nobles approached the party and said, hey, we need some bodyguards as we go out into the middle of the wilderness because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys willing to come with us, and we'll make sure you guys get paid?
Sounds
And
good
that
to
was
me.
the beginning of what became a 2-year-long session that didn't actually finish, but
Such is life.
such is life. But everyone had a great time, and we had lots of adventures
Yeah.
on this map.
That's awesome. 2 years is healthy for a D&D campaign. I know that you just wrapped up you
Yeah.
literally stopped counting 10, 11-year campaign, but I mean, like, still, 2 years is good.
Yeah, 2 years is good. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I started out by just brainstorming
Cool.
different names of places.
Nice.
So
Cool.
Yeah. D&D can be incredibly spiraling and complicated and literally requires someone to run it, Dungeon
That's
Master.
cool.
But I mean, like, it can be really accessible. You know, you can just start just like brainstorming stuff, you know? That's certainly what I've been doing, and I'm looking at my first ever campaign. You know what I mean? That and just looking at minis, you know, to try and get inspiration. But that's super cool. What kind of stuff do you have there? Just names for places and people?
these are the sort of major geographic regions of the world.
Okay, cool.
So, and also some just notes on languages that I used for source. Because I figured if I want to actually do something in Dwarvish that the players might not understand, I'll actually pick a language, pick up a few phrases, and spout those out as Dwarvish.
Cool.
And the players won't understand. I'll know what it means, and it actually does mean something.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll basically be a way to just kind of under the table use Google Translate to translate a phrase, and I could say something in Dwarvish or in Elvish or Draconic or any of the other languages that I don't
Cool.
exactly know off the top of my head because I only know 3, but still.
When you say languages, do you mean like fluently actually know, or do you mean know the names of to just name?
No, actually, like I do speak actually a few words in 3 different
Good for
languages,
you,
a few
man.
words in about a dozen others, but yeah.
When it comes to John, you always got to ask that when people are talking about I know, just like no, really, like he knows what he's talking about and how to talk in it. Yeah. Nice.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I picked a few languages and I decided, okay, well, that's that. And then using those languages as sort of seeds, I decided to name some of the features on the map that I had drawn. So I was like, okay, well, I have a giant mountain range. Let's call that the world spine. Okay, what language would that likely be in? Well, it's probably going to be in Dwarvish. So that became the Stora Urman, which in Icelandic, if I remember correctly, is the language I used for it, translates as, yeah, exactly that, is the world spine or the mountain spine, something to that effect. Hafafriki was also Icelandic, which
Nice.
which means the Great Desert.
Okay.
Alaslawas is the Great Forest, and the Osotlendir, which is the contested lands, and the Kepnilendir, and all these other areas that I just decided, okay, this is what I want the name to mean, and I'll find a language where it sounds cool.
Nice.
And that's kind of how I went about it, and I just started naming places.
So yeah, wow.
That's
pretty
beautiful.
Cool.
Tamaki's got a great suggestion. You should make a super strange looking place that's long looking and in the south with large lizard monsters, and we can call it the wetlands of Florida.
Unfortunately, the areas to the south are all desert, so I'm going to switch
Nice.
back to the main map here.
Thank you for
So
that. Cool.
the areas all down here is all desert, so it's literally Africa. It's
Cool.
It's all Serengeti Desert. Well, not Serengeti Desert. It's all Serengeti and Saharan Africa, basically.
Gotcha.
So this whole area down here is basically all just
Gotcha. Yeah, I was
it's all
waiting for that.
sand, migrating sand dunes and sand seas with a few hidden mountain ranges buried deep at its heart that pretty much no traveler has ever seen. They're kind of rumored to be there, but I mean, honestly, traveling in this particular stretch is kind of a suicide mission. The areas that would be closer to Florida are here in the tropics where the Great Forest is, and it's all rainforest. So the wetlands of Florida would be somewhere in these. Well, actually, I suppose this
Yeah.
peninsula there could qualify because
Sounds
it's
good to me.
It's all mangrove forest in that area.
It'll be Florida in our hearts.
I find it very interesting how you named, like you said, you came up with different languages. Like you took the time out to actually come up with things that meant things, and then you have the ways that you pronounce them and stuff. Because I was always say, like when George Lucas came up with like the whole Star Wars thing, like, dude, like come up with all those names and all those solar systems, those galaxies, those characters.
Mhm.
Like, man, that's far out, man.
Yeah,
They
it was.
really just come up and make up some stuff like that.
It's little things. I mean, he likes to tell me this all the time, but basically all writing is essentially stealing something from one
Yes.
place and just reskinning it to make it your own.
I'm one of those happy-go-lucky postmodernists. That's just I find that very liberating. Just like there is no such thing as an original idea anymore. All art is theft.
Well, even Tolkien did it when he was making Middle Earth. I mean, Middle Earth is Midgard, which those of you who've heard of Thor might actually recognize. Yes, he stole that one straight out of the Poetic and Prose Eddas. I mean, all the dwarf names straight out of the Prose Edda.
What is
The
the
list
Prose
is right
Edda?
there. The Prose Edda
Okay.
is the other half of the Poetic Edda. Basically, instead of having it written in poem form, it's written in prose.
Gotcha.
Okay,
But
so it derived from somewhere.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, he
that's
was
cool.
he's a big fan of the classics. So he studied, the Icelandic and Norse mythologies, and used his faculties as a linguist to basically just invent his own languages.
Yeah.
So he
Okay.
used the Nordic runes and invented Dwarvish. He borrowed, I believe, from I think it was from Dutch or some other languages, and that's how he made Elvish. And
Nice.
he made all these different dialects and such.
Finish.
Finnish. That's
There
what
we
it
go.
was.
Yes.
So he took from all these different real life sources and just tweaked it a little bit and made it his own. And he adapted what was, Alfheim and in Niflheim and Svartalfheim and all of those things, and he basically just changed them slightly so that they fit in his Middle Earth
Easy.
saga.
Yeah. Yeah, being part of a Tolkien, being a Tolkien scholar is totally a viable thing to do as an academic, and being a Tolkien linguist is totally a thing, because that's one of the professors I work with. I work at a college as a tutor and a mentor, and one of the professors I work with is a linguist, and a lot of the people he always wanted to teach, but a lot of the people he went to school with had told him, we're talking to their mentors when they were in grad school, saying things like, I'm not sure what I want to do with my linguistics degree. I don't think I want to be a teacher. And a lot of the mentorship said there's actually a lot of work in becoming a Hollywood language writer, because that's one of the things that you can't fake. Like if you just start talking blah 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 language, eventually the human brain tries to turn it into a language, and it really won't work unless it actually follows linguistic structure. So there's such a thing as being fluent in Klingon. That's not like a fan-made thing. Someone invented Klingon as a real language, as well as like Dothraki from Game of Thrones and stuff like that. So part of being like a Tolkien scholar, like John was saying, is learning the languages that Tolkien came up with. Tolkien was a linguist. What he taught he was certainly a capable literature professor, but really what he taught was Anglo-Saxon, the now dead language of the native peoples of England, So yeah, so John's definitely got a little bit of that in him and a little bit of that going, speaking that, yeah.
No one can speak Floridian, not even the locals. There we cannot help you, my friend.
Yeah, it's just guttural utterances and swinging machetes.
That's not actually wrong. I'm pretty sure it's a requirement to walk around in Florida. You have to have a machete, if nothing else, to keep the mosquitoes off.
The mosquitoes.
Machete.
Mosquitoes you can hit with the machete. I think Tamaki was talking about that when we were building my character, which is like, actually, it's a law. You have to have one of those big edge weapons in your house. It's really weird.
It's a law.
I think so. Tamaki, were you kidding about that? I'm not sure.
He might be, but
wouldn't surprise me.
to deal with all the gators and other actual
Yeah.
dangerous fauna in the area, that might not be a joke.
I want to carry around landmines. Just get in front of the guy who cut you off. Just toss it out the window. See what happens.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I basically started with just drawing a map. I came up with some names, and then just left it blank for the most part. It wasn't until we actually got near the areas where I figured we would actually need to do stuff that I actually started filling in areas. Like the the kingdom they started in is called Kiriditani. It's the largest kingdom on the map. And I wondered, okay, well, why is it the biggest kingdom? Why is it the most powerful? And I realized, well, it's literally right on a bunch of natural fortresses. We call them mountains.
Cool.
So there, if you build into, believe it or not, you need to have a blade at least 14 inches by law in your house.
In your house. Weird.
I believe it.
Yeah, we have 2 machetes. Yep.
Machetes in your house.
Fair enough.
That is truly ridiculous. Well, I'm glad you've covered your family by having
swords.
machetes and 2 swords. I want to know what a Floridian considers a
I
sword.
love swords.
Yeah. That sounds like some big
sword.
2-handed broad deal.
Are we talking full on long sword, or is it a falchion, maybe a scimitar,
Kind of katana, or like a medieval collectible.
Yeah.
You know, some stuff,
Cool.
man.
You can do a quick battery change.
Kind of curious at this point what kind of swords you actually do have.
Yeah, seriously. We're talking D&D, like that's really on point, my friend. D&D and kit bashing guys with all kinds of swords. Do share. While you're doing that, I'm going to do a quick old battery change.
So while he does the battery change,
reload.
And we sit here wondering what kind of swords you have, Tom.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And while he
I just wanted to
burns
light
the
him
set
on
down
fire.
behind us.
I just wanted to set John on fire. I got caught.
Oh.
You fooled me this time, but not again, John.
Well, you do know I'm half fireproof, or at least fire resistant.
Yeah.
Fire resist.
There's a sword.
That's
You want to
great.
show our sword?
Yeah, sure. Well,
Yeah, cool,
he's changing batteries now, right now, so give us a second. We're gonna
look here, man.
show that, but that's
This is the sword of Excalibur.
actually that's actually wrong. That's a cruciform sword, and therefore, yeah.
Cruciform.
This actually was on the actual character called Black Knight, and he has the sword of Excalibur.
Yeah. Well, the sword. Well, first of all, his the sword might be Excalibur, but the actual sword of Arthur was
Sword.
so it's actually called Caliburn,
Excalibur.
and or Celeburn, depending on how you pronounce it. Which later, as it became Frenchified, is where we get the term. And actually, Caliburn was actually just, if I remember correctly, it's Saxon for sword.
Nice.
Saxon.
Cool.
Those guys that were fighting up against King Arthur and his boys, right?
Yep. Yeah. My father's. Sorry, go ahead.
Clive Owens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My father's fond of
What are
calling
they-
me the flaxen Saxon at home. That's
It's
cool.
pretty cool, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Against my wife, but yeah, that's
Super
happening.
cool.
But
New sword.
the cruciform sword, which is what that sword is a good example of, actually did not come into popularity until many years after Arthurian myth was well established. So
Yeah.
the actual sword the actual Caliburn sword would have actually had a smaller hilt, would have been probably more rounded as well. So it would resemble more of a gladius or that form of sword than it would a cruciform longsword.
That's interesting. There was this one sword that come about in its origins. This is not too far back, just as far as back as the 80s. You know, it held this hilt that held this little gem and it looked like a cat's eye.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? And Lionel, his boy, actually extended with the thunder. It extended 3 times. The infamous Sword of Omens, ladies.
Well played. I thought you were going to talk
Just
about
like
some. Well played.
I heard that one.
Man.
I know where this is going, where he's going, but I want to let him finish his joke.
Well, that was good for my
Yeah.
benefit, at least.
It's all good, man. But yeah, man, it's awesome. You know, and all it seems like everyone kind of the way I see it is there's so much common ground sitting in this place because like with you know how you come up with characters and you know down to the whole where they're from and names, you know what I mean, just what we were talking about before. It's like taking that in full detail in its reading, maybe just like how we're talking about it now, to like manifest it, you know what I mean? Like you'll do it on paper, and like you'll turn around and find a case where it's like, listen, you know what? Let's really go into detail how those guys look, and it'd be just so cool to just generate something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it all plays in. It's just like one big mosh pit of creativity and fun, man. All coming from
Oh, yeah.
the old cranium.
Yeah.
Loving it, man.
I mean, that's how I build like half of the worlds that I construct. I mean,
that's what tabletop gaming's great for. Is nothing's automated for you. You know, anything from the gameplay to the world you play in. You know.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. That's why we're here. That's why, you know, chat's all here. We're all a bunch of creatives, you know. It's cool. So, I know you, John. That's not all you got.
oh no.
Yeah.
I got more. I'm trying to see if I can find the. In here somewhere. I know I've got the guild contract that I had actually written for my campaign, but I can't seem to find it. I'm sure it'll come up towards the end of the night where we're getting ready to call it a night. And it'll finally remember what folder I put the darn thing in. But yeah. So yeah, basically, when it comes to world building, and character creation, I just steal from one source or another and just.
You put a lot of work into modifying it, though.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not like it's not like Frodo walked in and fought Lion-O, and then they were fighting over Sephiroth's sword and stuff.
Well, like for the setting where my characters where my players were first sort of showing up when they finally got the main campaign. The kingdom they were going to was this area called Xandria. Xandria is actually the name of a band, but
I was gonna say, I thought it was familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the name of a band, which I kind of banked that nobody would know that was the name of a band. I'm like, okay, there's one or two players here who might know, and I'm sure they'll keep their mouths shut about it.
Yeah.
But even if they don't, it's a obscure enough band that I'm pretty sure nobody off of the first few sessions is gonna get, hey, that's a band name, isn't it? So, but I was kind of going okay, well, I have the Kingdom of Xandria. I need to populate it with people, and obviously, the whole shtick of it is that you're in a kingdom, so that means that they're going to be knights. So I kind of had to think of, okay, well, I need some names for knights, and I could not, for the life of me, think of a proper name.
Shadowbane.
So
what was it?
Shadowbane. Shadowbane. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I started to.
That's good.
We are going to the land of Kiss.
Good one.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
It's a land of fire, and there are cats everywhere for some reason.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
And you don't want to be out at night, or Star Lord, the Star Child will come and get you.
Star Child. Star Child. That's an original.
But so I basically what I did was to get all the knights that I needed for the Lake of Panic at the Disco. So to get the names of the characters I needed, I just started pulling pop culture figures that I knew of and just decided to tweak the names.
Nice.
I had let's see how long it takes you to get this one. The first knight that they ran into was an older knight. He was old, he was bald, and his thing was that he trained mastiffs. He wore mastiffs. So he was always accompanied by at least one or two, of these dogs that were always at his heel, and he had them properly trained. But this guy was he's an older knight, kind of in his retirement, and he was a loyal retainer to the queen, and his his
Do you have royalty as MacGuffins, just so loyal servant of the king and queen, and then we don't even find out who they are?
No, we in the campaign we knew who they were.
Gotcha.
The fact that we knew, well, at least I knew who they were, and that characters in the game knew who they were. The trouble is that at the time of the campaign, the king and queen of that particular kingdom were dead.
Gotcha.
Or I should say, the king and the former king and queen were dead. The current queen was the one who gave them their mission. So they were in that kingdom on the queen's behest, and they were essentially there trying to sort of secure her kingdom for her, because everyone thought she was dead, and they had to go around telling everyone, no, she's actually alive. But yeah, so I had this loyal knight. Again, he is this guy, dog trainer, and the first time that they kind of encounter him, I commented, it's this guy, in the back of his villa, there's this giant red barn, and there's a dog sleeping up top on it, with and there's a sort of yellow weather vane there, marking it out. And, the knight's name is Sir Charles. And the city that the village they were in is called Brownsville.
Brownsville.
So, yes, I started with Charlie Brown.
Nice.
Oh,
Were you
wow.
playing with a bunch of millennials who were
Okay.
just like, what's the significance of this?
Yeah, I figured I was like, okay, the older folks who are closer to my age are going to laugh pretty quickly, while the younger folks are going to scratch their heads thinking, and either not get that it's a reference and just be sort of enthralled at my genius, or they'll get the joke a lot later and then realize, wow, that was pretty clever. Either way, I turn out roses. But yeah, so the character, I basically started with the concept, okay, I have Charlie Brown. How do I make this into a D&D character, a knight of all things?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, you make him older so that the bald head still works. I made him have an affinity for dogs, which is how I got, the whole Snoopy
Excellent.
reference, except that I named his dogs after Snoopy's extended family. So his dogs, the dogs that he first walks up and meets the party with are Olaf and Spike.
Nice.
Which are two of did the Night Like Peanuts? No, but the area he was
Like peanuts.
the area around Brownsville was known for making peanuts, as well as for being an area where the farmers grew peanuts as a way of replenishing the soil.
Okay.
So
I like that. Was there a really, really filthy one who just walked around with a rag named Sir Lionelius or something like that? Why am I Romanizing something that's not necessarily Roman?
Linus was not a thing there, but his sister was. I didn't go the full Peanuts route there. He was the only guy who I basically pulled from that thing. And if they had explored the village more, I would have come up with guys. Mm-hmm. So there would have been, a pig farmer who's always dirty, but he's kind of known around the kingdom as being a pretty swell guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't never get clean because he's a pig farmer.
Yep.
So and that's Big Ben for you. I would have found a way of incorporating Linus as sort of the potential love interest for his sister Sally, and I would have done more with it, but they only ran into him for a little bit. But I needed him to be sort of the sort of face, the first face that they walked into. So I needed him to be a character who you kind of, he has that sort of bearing of someone who will easily sort of accept, but also be a character who kind of realizes this is going to be a lot of trouble that I don't necessarily want to get into, but I have to because of situations. So the sort of reluctant, I have the mannerisms of Charlie Brown, which I just sort of tweaked slightly and had his reasons for being reluctant a lot more, be a lot more based on his status as a former knight.
A former knight? I thought he was...
Well, technically the knighthood is a title that he will take to his grave, but he is not an active knight. He is retired, essentially.
Gotcha.
Charlie Brown?
Yeah. In my world, he's a retired knight. So he's the city that he's sort of watching over. It's not even really in the kingdom. It's on the borders, and it was a gift of land given to him by the king. So he actually does own the city that they are actually in. It's not a.
That's cool.
He pays homage to the king in exchange for things like protection in times of war or in troubled times, and they deal with certain things, and he can still be counted on as a loyal retainer if things got tough.
Right.
But he was, for all intents and purposes, he was out. He was, this was his villa. He was just going to retire, and he had a small town around him where they sort of maintained his household. I mean, he had gardeners to keep his land nicely groomed. It was a walled city, so that he had plenty of area to keep his people safe. There were blacksmiths. There were lots of other folks there who. It's a small village, but it was a village needs a lot of things. You need, a church, you need a blacksmith, you need a school of some sort, you need places to, places to buy and trade for food.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Community.
community.
Yeah.
You know,
functional deal. Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
the area around the town is all farmland, and
Right,
they
right.
also provide the area with food, and they do crop rotations. The
Cool.
primary crop in that area is potatoes, but they also do
Also peanuts.
peanuts
Yeah.
again for their crop rotations and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. So they were bringing in a huge peanut crop while they were there, and he has chestnut mares, which he was very proud of,
Cool.
which he got from the next city that they went to. It's like, yeah,
Did you write an end to your when you're writing a campaign in general, including the one you're talking about? Did you write an end to it, or did you let that develop as people played it out?
I had an end goal for them. Whether they actually made it there was another story.
Gotcha.
Knights were known for being bald on the sides of their head because of their helmets. Yeah, yeah, that's
Good.
true. However, this is a medieval setting, so I figured that they could find a way to get around it.
So that's something.
Yeah.
The helmets would normally, realistically, they would normally be bald because of the helmet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they would be bald
Evidently.
because you would have to have the padding over your head,
Yeah.
which is part of the coif, and then you'd have the chainmail coif, and then the helmet.
Okay.
So
It's just the half hair.
it's more comfortable to either shave
Yeah.
your head so that it doesn't chafe, or it would chafe, and then you would just eventually wear patches out and go bald.
They sure made those night movies where the guys are all charming looking, got the nice hair and all that stuff.
Yeah,
He takes the helmet off.
but
You're
yeah,
supposed to be bald, dude.
That's funny.
but yeah. I just eventually, when I really started to go to town on this thing, I just started pulling names of characters, and I did good because he was bald, so it worked. Yeah, well, it turned out good for me, but yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of these knights wore heavy armor, so. But I would basically just pull names of Marvel characters or other characters,
Mhm.
and I would come up with city names and the knights who ruled over them.
Nice.
So-
Have you done any of that
Yeah.
for the campaign we're talking about today?
Not yet, because I haven't decided where you guys are going to be.
Gotcha.
But just to give you some examples, I had Sir Howard of Quackenbush. Kudos if you guys get that one.
Oh heck yeah.
Well, he's been in the latest Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah,
movie, so
yeah.
people would know him.
That's a great hint. Chat, if you don't get that, I'm not mad, but I'm going to be disappointed. Seriously.
Lady Aurora of Stormbreak,
There you go.
Sir Radcliffe the Griffin,
Okay.
let's see, Charles of Brownsville we talked about. We had Sir Lawrence of Sandpoint.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Lady Raven of Darkholm.
Sandpoint.
There you go.
Sir James the Wolf of Howleton.
Alan.
There's a name that most people don't know.
All right, I give up. What's that one from?
James Howlett.
James Howlett.
That's Wolverine's real name.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
That's Wolverine. Oh, it was Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, he was
was
born
not- it
born in
was-
Canada. His
yeah.
name was James Howleton,
Yep.
and that was his first
Born-
name. He wasn't called Logan
Uh-uh.
until a little bit later in his life when
Yeah.
they were on the run and they needed to find a pseudonym to run under.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Born in Kanakistan, huh?
Well, name from the Bible because names
Oh,
mean
cool.
pretty cool thing. Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, there's lots of places you can pull names from. I just chose pop culture because that way my characters would actually, or my players would actually have something fun to laugh at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
fun and it's understandable.
Awesome.
I have to
Exactly.
ask. I loved Sir Lawrence's Sandpoint. Or yeah, that's excellent. But what was the Raven of Darkholm?
Raven Darkholm, Mystique.
Damn it. Okay. Damn it. Okay. I'm mad at myself for not
Darkholm.
getting that one.
Darkholm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean,
Not me.
I just went down the road. I mean,
This is
Kent of Obermeyer. That one's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Kent. Clark Kent.
Kent of Obermeyer.
Kent of Obermeyer. That's
Obermeyer.
good.
If you-
That's
That one takes a little bit of getting to. Obermeyer is a play on Ubermensch.
Okay.
So the Ubermensch figure in
Nietzsche.
Ubermensch is Nietzsche, but in comics, the Ubermensch is Superman.
Yep.
So
That was
Kent is.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when you say Kent. That's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were exactly right.
Clark
It's
Kent,
just that
Clark
most
Kent.
people think, I don't get it. Is
Exactly.
he talking about this? Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
am, but I.
Yeah,
But
Siegel and
because-
Schuster actually mistranslated Overman, which is what Nietzsche wrote in Will to Power, as Superman. So that whole thing came about as a mistranslation, that's part of John's wordplay. Is that John's using it intentionally.
And my other favorite one was Cerwena Murcielago.
That's one of my favorite jokes in The Dark Knight. Murcielago is Italian for the bat. It's a Lamborghini model, like that really big Lamborghini that you've seen, and that's what Bruce Wayne drives in Chris Nolan's Chris Nolan's Batman's movies, because Murcielago means the bat.
Yeah, so he's
Look at that.
Dope.
so even in when he's being Bruce Wayne, he's still in the Batmobile.
He's in the Batmobile.
That's the joke. But again, I just pulled names like that, and I had the knight. That from that I would get the knight's name. So there again, we have Sir Walter, and then the place he was from was Weston.
Okay.
Walter West.
That's what I thought. Wally West. Not my favorite Flash, actually. I was about to say, but no, I can't do it. It's Barry.
Fair enough. I
Barry
mean,
Allen. Yeah.
he would have, if they had actually gone to Weston, they would have probably come across the Allens as another family there who would have been competing for the rank of mayor or were a rival knight household within the area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, but I have a lot of work tomorrow. All right, well,
All right, thanks for hanging out with
Hey,
us,
thanks
Tom.
for
Again,
being
as
out
always.
with us
Sorry
as long as
again
you
for
were.
crediting T-Med for your awesome highlight vid. Thanks again, man. Take care.
All right.
Yep.
Later.
but yeah, that's so again, just picking up names. That's how I populated in my cities and the knights and characters of a kingdom, and I'm going to do something similar. I'm sure when I
Nice.
figure out the area where we're going to have the next campaign.
Awesome.
Which I'm still kind of on the fence about. I'm thinking we're going to start probably in the southern area, so north of Half Afrique.
Cool.
Which is
Whoa.
based very much on sort of the Middle Eastern culture and Greek culture. So you have Middle East and Mediterranean culture in that area. And what they're known for in that area is glass making.
Cool.
Glass making.
Because you have a lot of silica sand just south of you, so you have the materials there to make glass.
Mm-hmm.
And since there's not going to be a lot of, getting the wood or whatever you need to actually burn in order to get the temperatures you need is the challenge. But the forest of Alas Lawas isn't too far away,
Cool.
so they can harvest wood, and the Serengeti and the plains are not prohibitive to making wood farms for such things.
Yeah.
So they get the wood that they need, and then they make these blast furnaces, which they will then use to make glass. And then you have all these artisans down south making glassware materials. So you have glass baubles or glass panes and things of that nature.
Right.
They have access to clays and such that they can use to make colored glass.
Nice.
That's cool.
So, and people are always going into the deserts to the south to find whatever they find, because there are lost cities that are actually lost in the dunes and are revealed by, the motion of dunes, and so people will actually
You mean
go
ruined cities or like encounterable people in game?
like there are ruined cities that you can actually, if you go in and if you're there at the right time in the right place, you actually might find an actual opening, kind of like the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, where it's just the dunes shift, or the sands, you have a sandfall or a rockfall, and suddenly there's a new passage that no one has seen in centuries or millennia, and he was like, "Oh my God, we found another thing. Let's go explore it and see if there's anything inside worth finding."
Right.
What was down here before it was all forest, or before it was all desert?
Excellent.
Yeah.
The fact that there are ruins in a desert, what were they doing there?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
is,
Was this an oasis? Are
Was
we
this
having an Ozymandias situation?
you also have the question of, what else is in this desert? I mean, if we have cities that are buried in the sand, what else is out there?
Right.
And there are lots of people who actually fund expeditions that go south looking for things like new mineral veins,
Mhm.
you know, oases and things that they can use to track and find actual landmarks out there. But
Right.
most people
Oh, that's
don't
great.
come back because it's not a safe place.
Yeah.
The
Great.
environment alone is bad, and then you find all the monsters that are actually out there making meals of
Yeah.
all the adventurers who wander south.
Right. You know? Believe in that.
Mhm.
Bigfoot is real. Down for no,
No,
we're not playing. But
in this
look,
world, yeah.
Yeah.
hey, let's have a real talk.
I
A lot of yeah.
figure you throw nothing away. Find some way of making everything fit into your world somewhere.
right.
So that if a player kind of says, "Well, I want to do this," you find some way of accommodating them. They want to play a character who's, someone who's from another world and they just end up here.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
I can write that in.
Yeah.
How have you survived from your world to here? And that's, the question of that. Or if you want to be a character who's, some rare species of player character that you might have played in a different game setting altogether, but you want to
Yeah.
play it here, fine, we'll do that, and I'll figure out a way of making that canon.
Nice.
So, I structured this world in such a way where it's like, yeah, anything and everything can land here somewhere. It's just a question of how do you want to make that work? What do you guys want to play? And I'm more for telling the players yes than no. Not that I won't say no if something actually comes out. It was like, well, you don't know anything, or well, it's like, you want to cut that guy's head off? Great, you're 3 miles away. How do you plan on doing that? I just swing my sword and cut his head off. Doesn't work that way. I'm sorry to say. So
We all want our swords a little bit bigger in one way or another, but that's not going to work. You've never had a play like I hope
Play
you're I hope you're spitballing examples. I hope you've never had a player doing something that dumb.
Yeah, no. I've been blessed with great players, so no one has done anything quite that extreme yet. I'm sure someone will find something where I'm just gonna have to look at them and just go,
Yep. Now that we've set a bar
that's
for
not physically possible.
You don't get trolled when you're DMing usually, do you? I hope not. Because there's some people that will protest what a DM does, and I think that's very different than someone just messing with you.
The thing about it is that sometimes it works to their benefit. So I've had players be a little bit funny, and I decided actually I like that idea. We're gonna make that canon.
Dope.
Like there was this whole in the first campaign, we had a character who because they went and they basically found a princess who was being escorted by her handmaiden / personal bodyguard, and this personal bodyguard was no joke. She was known throughout the lands as a dragon slayer.
Cool.
So when one of the best dragon slayers in the world shows up at your at the front door and says, "I want to be the guardian of your daughter," very few kings are going to say no, because they're like, okay, someone who is willing to actually, someone this good is willing to protect our kids. Yes, please. What will it cost to secure your services? What would you like? Do you want a knighthood or what is it you want? And so, long story short, I basically said, okay, this character's name is Jade, and she's known as a dragon slayer.
Okay.
And this is the woman who is being the personal escort to the princess who you guys were sent to find.
Okay.
Well, the thing of it is that character had an ability called Pass Without Trace, which meant that the next morning when the escort and princess basically left without telling the party anything, everyone was kind of assuming, well, there's no tracks, there's no way we can track them. And they rolled pretty poorly on their rolls. So obviously tracking these guys was not going to be a thing. So one of the players kind of half-jokingly shouted, "Oh, I bet you that character is a dragon in disguise." And I was like, no, she's a dragon slayer. She's not a dragon. But it kept coming up. Every single time I brought up this character, and I was playing her, all mysterious and this character who was always in the shadows, and you never really saw her in great detail. And everyone's like, I was like, oh, this, she's so good. She must be a dragon. I'm like, well, no, she's just higher level than you guys, and she's higher level. She's got these specific set of skills that are, sort of this.
The Liam Neeson of dragons.
But after a few times hearing this joke, I was kind of all like, you know what? Thinking about it, it actually kind of would be cool if this character was a dragon and was actually trying to raise this queen to be more sympathetic, or to be prepared for a plan that's going to take place a lot later. Wants to make sure that the ruler is going to be in line with what they want. So,
did you miss a spot or cover up a spot?
Covered up a spot.
Gotcha.
Just a little too.
You can get it though.
A little too far.
Yeah.
Get it on out of there.
So, but yeah, that's how that character eventually became a dragon, even though she was originally just
Hear you.
focus.
Your depth of field is not
Focus. Okay.
focused. That's
There
not
we go.
bad.
Coming on kind of thick.
Yeah.
Put that
A
water
little
on
bit,
there.
but yeah.
Get it though.
Thing about it, man, is I know how to remove paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you going to use a different color of silver, or perhaps some white to give highlights to it, or are you just going to
I'm
just?
just basically gonna darken in the areas that are supposed to be darkened after I'm done with this silver.
Gotcha.
Because what I'm finding is like most of when you're looking at his pictures, most of the dark spots that's in his body are like glares off of this like light kind of reflecting off the different angles of his gears. So
Cool.
it's like pretty much saying he's all chromed out, but you want that effect.
Well, I mean, you could dirty him up and say that he's been in combat.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
Yeah.
That'd probably be your best bet. You want the shiny
Yeah.
coat.
you're gonna make him basically just straight off the production line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like this is the new deal.
Fair enough.
This is the new deal. Why is this water? Really? Now that's interesting.
Too much paint in the water?
The water's bubbling.
Interesting.
Yeah. Repellent.
Huh.
It's good. So,
Must be your bubbly personality.
could be.
Could be.
Could be.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. But think so?
But
Oh,
yeah,
man.
so to answer your question,
Yeah.
sometimes they do troll me, but then sometimes the trolling turns out to be actually pretty good inspiration.
That's
So,
awesome.
of course, that doesn't necessarily stop me from trolling them on occasion either.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Random encounter.
Well,
Random encounter.
well, no, but like
Random.
there was a shopkeep I sprung on him once, who like they walk into this shop, there's no one around. All of a sudden they turn around and there's this orc right here, big old grinning teeth, and he's like, "Hello." And they're like, hi. And then I would just wait for them to speak for a few minutes. And then I'm like, name's Bruce. And just
That's
leaned over the
awesome.
table and put my hand like right in their face.
Hello.
And just,
Hello.
again, total parody of another character, which if you guys have seen Finding Nemo, you know exactly who I'm parodying.
Oh, I was thinking Bruce Banner. I thought they bumped into the Hulk.
No, they bumped into Bruce the shark
Oh yeah.
from Finding Nemo.
Oh yeah.
That was the joke. I was like, you just turn around and suddenly there's just teeth in front of your
Just
face.
teeth.
Right.
Hello, name's Bruce. And it was, and they were just like, we don't know what to make of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because every single time they walked in the shop, they'd never see him. And then they turn around and there he is.
Right.
Nice.
And I was just like, well, and I was like, yeah, he's just, he's an orc, full-blooded.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just gonna, he's extremely dexterous and has an insane sneak ability. So, yeah, you're not gonna see him unless you're deliberately looking for him. And most people don't. So they walked into this, everyone walked into the shop. Got the same thing. It's like, hi, I was like, name's Bruce. Well, how you doing,
Name's
Bruce?
Bruce.
I'm looking for gear. Oh, great, you're looking for gear. Grabs his
Name's Bruce.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
and just made him like an orc. Just make him
Yeah.
just big, gregarious, and
Mm-hmm.
he was a character that to this day everyone knows the name of Bruce.
Can you imagine a shy orc? It's like, what would that look like? Just like, what's that thing acting like we can't see it? That hulking thing, just like skulking in the corner that we can't all help but look at. I feel like it's about to come talk to us.
I may have to make that now.
That'd be cool.
I'll make that just a shy orc, a guy who's who should we base that on?
Shrek.
Actually, I wasn't gonna.
Not
I mean,
good. That's pretty
That's
good.
not bad, but he was very much
Order.
an in-your-face character. I don't see him as a shy kind of,
He's a gentleman.
Interesting. Oh, what
He's a
about?
gentleman in most cases.
That's a great point. Shrek is totally a gentleman. Shrek is one of those great movies that, for like kids movies that adults can watch and get a whole different appreciation out of it that I haven't actually seen since I was a kid. And I need to fix that. So thank you for reminding me of that.
That's Shrek, yeah, man.
Oh,
Shrek's
but
bomb.
I love Shrek. What's his
Donkey.
name? Yeah, the white Bronco chase at the end of Shrek 3.
Shrek 2 is the best of the movies.
Shrek 2 was the best of the movies. But what came to mind was how about like Bruce Banner as an orc, not the Hulk, but Bruce Banner, or is he too like smart and quirky?
So you mean like when he gets mad, he turns into an orc rather than the Hulk, or what do you mean?
Oh, I just mean
kinda
like imagine like the Hulk in the Hulk form, but acting like Bruce Banner.
Yeah, so
Like just some punk little thinks he's
Well-
tough thug little guy, and then he turns into this great big monster. He's just all like shy and meek and doesn't want to talk to anybody.
like Mark Ruffalo's portrayal, where he like the first time we meet him in
Avengers.
where he's just kind of like this guy who's got his hand, one hand in the other, and he's kind of like, what if I don't want to do it? What if I'm,
Hulk up.
that
Why?
kind of.
Yeah.
So okay,
that
that
would
could be a thing, but what do we make him now?
Something.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to make a shy orc, he's got to be shy for a reason. You can't
Definitely.
just be shy just to be shy.
Right. People would, or maybe his family wanted to show him off, just like how big and strong he could be, and it had the negative effect now that he's older.
Better thought. What if he's he was a part of a sideshow act? Like he
Cool.
was like literally an orc, found as an orphan, basically brought up to be sort of like a the strong man, and but the either the circus fell apart or something happened, and now he's by himself, and without that sort of support company of people to sort of make him sound bigger than he is, he's this. Idea of being just this little lost kid who doesn't really know how to really interact with people, who's used to being, just this big silent thing in the background is just really like a stage-hand and kind of
good.
the muscle, but he's now by himself, and just how this guy kind of be.
That's good.
I don't know how to talk to people. Here's my money, just leave. That kind of thing.
That'd be cool.
So that could work.
Are you thinking if this is one of the party members or just an encounter?
Oh, just someone you'd probably run into.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you for putting so much work into just encounters. You know what I mean? Like, I know plenty of people be like, nope, if I'm writing a character, I'm busy. If I'm writing a character, it's going to be in your party and stuff like that.
Well, usually the first NPC that my players run into is Willem. So Willem is he's always the same character. He's always this
Please say Willem Dafoe.
No. He's based on if you guys have seen there's a series of sort of college movies out there called The Gamers. It's there's a bunch of them, and in the second movie, which is The Darkness Rising, there is a character who the party members run into. His name is Willem, and that was the sort of inspiration that I got. So he's just a commoner, but he appears in every single one of my campaigns.
Nice.
Always the same character. He's this young, well, not young. He's this basically is his halfling male who is usually just kind of an info dump. He shows up. He shows up. He does something useful and then wanders off. But once,
a self-opening pinata that walks away after you get all the candy. That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, the first time that they ran into this character, he was in a guild hall, and he was basically there making sure that they got their gear.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Willem. And they always, every single campaign that I run, I make sure he shows up somewhere. So he's my own little insert character.
Right.
Dope.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I usually, whenever I come up with
I love that movie.
everything from shopkeepers to, to just people on the streets. Like, well, what kind of people would you run into on the street? Well, you bump into probably some merchants, other peasants, farmers who are just walking around doing their business. You're gonna you might walk into a noble if you get lucky. One of my NPC or one of my PCs who was running, just decided to. She was a thief. She decided to go fleece the crowd one day. So I'm like, okay, well, who'd you run into? Okay, you try, well, mostly farmers. She's like, I want to look for anyone who looks like they actually have money. And I rolled on the table. Okay, you actually do see someone who has money. Great. I pick his pocket. Rolled to pick the pocket. Rolled really high. Great. You pulled 1 platinum piece and 2 gold pieces from his pocket, which is a lot of money.
Cool.
Congratulations. You've effectively pulled a,
You pulled a small heist.
pulled a small heist. Yeah, because that's essentially like picking a rich man's wallet and walking away with a couple $100 bills.
Nice.
So, RoboCop.
Yeah.
World building is all about just getting details down and making every character that you place in front of your players relatable.
Awesome and understandable.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, like that. Sorry, I'm going back to how good an idea I think it is that you chose pop culture references. How many literary references are people going to get, for example? So I think that's great.
Yep.
If you need a character, just off the top of your head, just think of the crew or the cast of your most beloved TV show, or book, or whatever. Just pick something, and then tweak the name slightly so that it's not immediately identifiable.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly.
Griffin Peterson.
Griffin Peterson character that I was working on with you think of like when you, for example, like say you want to start making Thundercats.
Yeah.
Obviously, looking and listening to the cult classic names or whatever, to the new cartoons they released, all of the characters pretty much had a similar name according to the cat that they were.
Right.
So you just like kind of start thinking of different names that would be related to those cats as well. And it's fun, it's just coming out like with this guy call him Sabah, and basically he's a Siberian tiger.
Nice.
His whole reason for the name is because he's really husky, really big. You got a guy like tiger, he kind of covers the bases of a tiger, but when you say Siberian tiger, it's the biggest cat on the planet.
Yeah.
So get this big guy who's like bigger than the norm and make him a Siberian tiger. So throw a name like Sabah out there, and actually Sabah was like you said, it kind of derived from what was it, the White Ranger.
Oh,
Sabah was the
nice.
Tommy actually became the White Ranger.
That's
he actually
awesome.
got
he had his little dagger, which was called Sabah.
Yeah, that's
well, actually, it was a
awesome.
scimitar.
the first to come to mind.
Yeah.
Also, what's fun is that in Hebrew, Sabah is actually grandfather.
Interesting, because it's a Farsi name as well.
Okay.
I have no idea what it means. I just met a number of women in Farsi. Not women named Farsi. Women named Saba. There we go.
And the female equivalent would be Safta.
Okay.
Cool.
Look at that.
So if you make him a big white tiger, or something like to that effect, he's sort of grandfatherly. There you go.
I like it.
Call him the Don. Papa.
Nice.
Papa Saba. Yeah, Papa. Yeah, man. So this is interesting because it's like you really can't leave. If and I'm serious. It's so funny how a lot of times when I start doing anything, you think that you're gonna do it a certain way, and then once you get the rolling, you start going with the flow, and you kind of say, "This doesn't look too." Let me do this and let me try.
Oh yeah,
Murphy's
Murphy's Law.
It's kind of like, man, I just kind of like went wayward with this thing. But then to pull it back together, I just found it to be much easier just to paint this guy as a fool,
Right.
carefully, but then go back with some black paint and kind of like, just like you said, dirty him up a bit, and he won't just look so like dipped. But what I managed to do is because this paint right here kind of thickens when you keep doing many coats.
Mm-hmm.
You just hit it one time in that area and just kind of just keep strutting.
Yeah.
Because if you bulk it up, it'll cover up maybe like a groove or something that still gives them that detail. Where if you just kind of just hit him at the right angles, it's still kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to just dry brush some of the highlights, and that way it gives it sort of that gleaming look to it.
Right.
Just give that maybe again just dry brush some white paint or some metallic white to give it that gleam in the areas where that should be raised, and then use a shade to give depth to the shadows.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a way to skin the cat, no doubt.
I missed that expression. That's
I
awesome.
like cats. I shouldn't say that expression. I have a cat at home, actually.
Nice.
I would never skin him, so I shouldn't say that.
Have you named him after one of the Thundercats?
No.
I'm a little disappointed.
He's
I'm gonna
actually
say.
named after the bad. My daughter named him Cain. Would you believe that?
That's dope.
His name is Cain.
That's dope.
Cain we've had Cain since he was a kitten. He's definitely a Cain.
That's cool. You should get a dog named Abel.
You're right. So I tell him every time when I come home, I just give him a nice little shove. Before he even ask me the question, I let him know, yes, you are your brother's keeper. No. Yeah, man, he's a cool cat. He's a big baby, though. He loves cuddling under my neck.
Oh, yeah.
Wants me to pick him up and hold him like a child all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do.
Yeah. It's hard to say no to a
It's all
cat.
good, yeah. He's a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Call him my silver tiger. King, the silver tiger. He's at, I believe it's the dragon tie, I believe. You know, the gray ones with the stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen one in person, but that's awesome. I love cats.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah. I hope so. You have one. Yeah.
Thundercats hoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I love animals. You know, it's just that cats are so like, oh, what's up, man?
Yeah.
Oh, that's you. Okay, cool. You gotta go to the bathroom? Oh, you know what to do. You know what to do.
Yeah.
You gotta go handle your business? You know exactly where to go, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even gotta talk about it. Just go ahead and do it.
That's dope. So, John, do we have anything mechanical to do because like we rolled a bunch of dice for building a character and all that good stuff, and I loved it. But I always assumed that we'd have to do something similar for the world. Anything like that?
For world building, really, it comes down to what your character wants to do. And like, it's more about what your backstory is going to be that I'm going to pull from to when I add out to the world. Like, for example, the place where you're from. It's a city in the middle, like it's an elvish city, but it's a city that is grown more than it is built. So
Interesting.
it's a city that was literally, it's essentially they took a stand of trees and they started influencing how those trees grew.
Gotcha.
So the trees themselves grow together and they weave together. The knots in the trees are sort of shaped in such a way so that they grow into large rooms that people can kind of go into and be part of. The boughs are sort of drawn together and weave together with the other branches to form floors and walkways. So the city goes vertical and occasionally horizontal. And when it does go horizontal, it's on these giant boughs that have had their branches weaved together to form this sort of makeshift walkway. And everything is kind of, I mean, there is some construction because you can't get away from it. You're going to need to, to add in pulley systems and, ways of drawing water higher into the trees. So you're going to have, things like bucket systems, pulley systems, plumbing, other things like that to deal with, with all the stuff that comes with living up in a tree. But it's as much of the foundation that can be grown is, so that the city is actually about 50, 60 large trees that have now basically been grown into this giant sort of structure that is a city of about 6,000 people. So, the trees themselves are, a couple 100 feet tall.
Right.
And again, because each tree supports the weight of the other trees, no one tree stands alone.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these people living into, again, you have a few houses that are constructed, but most of them are built into sort of the nooks and crannies of the tree, of the big trunks and such. And these trees are ancient, so these elves have been at it for thousands of years growing these trees, and they've grown other trees and other, planted other plants to sort of give or make walkways that are made of vines and things of that nature.
Hey man, move, it's my spotlight.
So, yeah.
So I gotta let this guy kind of just dry for a sec.
Cool.
Can't really hold him much. So obviously, it's a comeback too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I took the same silver paint. It's crazy because you remember the new RoboCop that they released.
Oh,
And
I missed it.
Yeah,
Fortunately, yeah.
pretty cool. I went in and got a couple of figures. Now they had the silver one, with the little black detail and whatnot, and then they had the black one. Remember, he was in all black in the movie as well.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
have these two identical figures. One just has a silver, one has black. I was at this actually at a Dollar Tree, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And it was during the holiday season, maybe a couple years back. I found, man, these had a shelf full of all the black ones though. So grabbed a couple. And I was like, it's cool. Got a RoboCop figure, never had the new one. And so you start getting ideas and you start thinking about what can I actually, like these other ones to be. So I grabbed, a couple other ones, man. The same silver paint, took one, just chromed them all out, right? And from a Spider-Man
Spider-Man
figure, man. Spider-Man figure. They had this he had like a webbing type of wing spread on his back that kind of connected to him, and you can kind of spread the wings out. And it was made of like some fine nylon, material that was kind of like I guess
rayon,
kind of like what your umbrella is made out of, but really kind of thick. You kind of reveled out, and it came out this way here, and it connects to the figure's arms. I'm looking, man. I went ahead and created my little Quicksilver Silverhawk.
Awesome.
Nice.
Painted the wings and everything. So he's like floating over in my hallway.
Was he
flying.
drying it? Did that mess things up?
But say again?
Was he drying and did he mess the paint up?
No.
Okay. Cool.
That's fine. It's just it's just on there.
Gotcha.
But it just needs. This is kind of sticky. This paint right here is kind of sticky. I think it's
You're using enamel-based paint, or
it's like model cars.
Cool. Probably enamel based.
yeah, it's probably enamel-based, but from
It's
the way it looks, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a couldn't find silver and acrylic deal, but it works. And it's pretty cool because it glistens.
Yeah,
It really gives you that bling 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 bling.
I kind of prefer the oil-based stuff, or the stuff that's actually built for models, because it like you said, the enamels do get really kind of that tacky texture, especially when you do a couple of coats or start doing a few extra brush strokes.
Yeah.
And it does thicken up real quick.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you gotta just keep it pushing with this. Can't do too much. So that's why I'm gonna
back way back in the day, I had
all his cuts.
I actually did something similar. I had some of those. They used to have the X-wing, not the X-wing, the Star Wars ships, like the X-wing, the A-wing, Y-wing, and such. And I used to paint over the colors on those as well.
Nice.
And I used, at the time, like you, I had the sort of those automobile paints that they use for painting model cars, which were all enamel based, and that's what I used to paint them. But I would thin mine out with the thinner so that it would go on a lot easier.
What models do you use for D&D, John?
Actually, I will go. Usually, I'll find like army men or sort of some generic equivalent and use those.
Because I'm sure you're well aware, but for those watching, what's it called? Wizards of the Coast now has pre-primed models, and they're really nice and affordable.
Yeah.
They're really great.
There's the Wizards of the Coast ones are good. There are ones out there made by a company. They're called Bones, which are like the white ones I have over here, which I've been using for. These are unpainted, unprimed, but they're fairly high detail. It cost me $1.50.
Dope.
Oh, nice.
Bones, you say?
Yeah, the company's they're the company. Either the company or the product line are called Bones, and they make these really high detail plastic and resin models, which
That's cool.
they're
they're
not primed, so I still do have to prime that before I decide to paint it. But
still,
they're fairly well detailed and they're cheap. Like I said, I paid about $1.50, $2 per figure.
Yeah. Longtime viewers will know that we Warhammer 40,000 is near and dear to our heart here. Whoa, my tripod's hit my lens. That's not cool. Oh my God, this is so much more affordable. Like, it's so nice knowing that there are games where you can spend a reasonable amount of money, like $1 or $2.
Yeah, and you don't actually have to paint them, or you don't actually really need to go out of your way to make them look overly anything.
Focus.
I mean, technically, you don't even need a figure because lots of times I'll just play theater of the mind. So it's just you use your imagination to think of the situation. I just describe it to you. And the only times I really use figures is if we're going to be into combat with a lot of different figurines. So if it's the party versus another group of 5 or 10 or whatever, then I'm going to want to break out the mat and bring out all the little figurines, really just so everyone has an idea of where they are. So, because combat death will definitely get confusing if you're not paying attention, or you might not realize that someone's as close as they are when you say, I cast a spell. I'm like, did you realize there's a guy like 10 feet away from you who's going to strike at you if you do? It's like, oh, no, I didn't realize that. So when you have the models out on the table, it's easier to see it. But normally, it's all theater of the mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a good way of, for those of you who want to actually just start collecting, just look for unpainted figures. Like you said, Wizards of the Coast has their own, which are relatively affordable. They're about $5, and they usually come in pairs.
Yeah, no, they box them up, and you end up getting quite a bit for your money.
Yeah, they're prime.
Not
so
like
they're
40K. Oh my God.
Oh my God. 40K is where you have to assemble the model.
Yeah.
And then
you have to assemble the money, and then you have to
assemble the money, then assemble the model off of sprues.
Yeah.
Make sure it's all nice and clean before you prime it, and then eventually paint it. In my case, several years on, I still haven't painted my army.
It's what happens. Yeah, you're not really into Warhammer 40,000 until you have whole armies on your shelf that are unboxed and unbuilt.
Yeah. All of my stuff is almost assembled.
Nice.
So
you're one of the lucky few.
One of the lucky few. It's one of the few. Well, the thing is, it's all assembled. It's not painted. It's all primed. It's all primed, and that's it. Oh, of course, I play Necrons, which is all silver primer anyway.
It's all silver primer and then a wash in Nuln oil, unless you want to get creative.
Yeah, which I do.
Lucky.
But
no, I really like the paint job that you came up with.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that I realize that's gonna be our interstitial for when we have to do stuff like take breaks, when we have technical difficulty in the future. Is I'm gonna make some time lapse videos of building stuff and painting stuff, which is super cool.
One of these days, when we don't have actual content to show you guys, I'll bring in some models and we'll just start painting them.
Sounds good.
And
oh yeah, that's we can do that at any time. And then
yeah, but I'd like to reserve that for days when we have writer's block and can't actually think of something.
Gotcha. I could always play on those days.
Sweet.
This is true, but I'm going to see if I can convince you to help me paint some of these models. That way I can actually get
heck yeah. Never mind. I was just gonna I always think about offering every time this comes up, and I was just like, I don't want to take that from him, but I mean, I'd love to help you paint them if you're interested.
Yeah, at least get the base coats down.
Oh heck yeah.
And I'll just do the detail work afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be willing to help you with any part of it, man. Heck yeah. No, that'd be a great thing to do on stream. And a great thing to just have recorded videos handy dandy full.
So cool.
Okay.
Man, I wasted this paint on my finger.
Well,
That's one thing about it.
it happens.
You get it on your hand.
Yeah,
But,
if you don't get a little bit of paint on your hands, you're not painting.
You're literally not doing it right. Yeah.
Doesn't belong on your face. It doesn't get all over the place. I hear you. So you've been working, being creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. It's a crazy thing. As it got on my hand, because I was actually twisting the knob.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those moments where it wasn't expected. What's this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So this is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to show you guys, get on some of this other stuff when I
Yeah, man. It's gonna be great.
create these. I do my adding things like cutting off horns and
Yeah.
you know, because I got this idea. Well, I don't want to put too much out there, but
Yeah.
this football player, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're turning to one of my favorite football teams is the
Dope.
Raiders.
Dope.
So
I've only ever seen you wearing either white and gray, white and silver, or black and gray, black and silver, black and white.
I love the game. I love black.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just like it's a cool color, or technically not a color, right?
Yeah.
But cool.
It depends on
Yeah.
the context, because when you're painting, black is the union of all colors.
Right.
So whereas when you're talking about light, it's the absence of all color.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Things that make you go, But yeah,
yeah.
I'm always talking crazy. But anyways, yeah, man. I was gonna say, I lost my thought.
Oh, modifying characters, football players.
Oh yeah, cause dude, got this guy's shoulder pads, right? His shoulder pads actually got the spikes.
Oh yeah.
Got the facial paint.
Oh yeah.
Turn these football players into warriors, man. You know
Heck
what I
yeah.
mean? Give them some spin-off crazy names.
Heck yeah.
And then you'll be ready to play Blood Bowl.
There you go, Blood Bowl.
Blood Bowl.
That's it.
Fantasy football.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I found what I was looking for earlier. This is the contract for. Well, I'll turn this around so you guys.
Gotcha.
Can,
Really quickly, I'm really curious. What's the name of that football player, though, that you're talking about? You said he's from the Raiders.
Oh, it's Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn who?
Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, that's
He's
right.
great.
That's right. Yeah.
But you know, you put it out there. The reason why I say I don't want to put too much out there, not so much the idea, but you ain't trying to get sued for that, you know.
Oh yeah. No. Oh my
but
god.
no, it's not. I wouldn't definitely not name the character that, of course.
Obviously.
But when you look at it, you go, it's like, that's
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you give him a little cool little name and be like, oh yeah. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
In between the lines, all good. Just something to do.
Right.
Like, just coming up with all kind of ideas, man. One thing I like is hanging out in the places. Like I heard one of the greatest entertainers in the world make a comment how they like to go to the secondhand store.
Mm-hmm.
You find good stuff, and you just put it all together, and you just like it just becomes beautiful after they're done altering it, whatever. So, in that saying, a lot of the things that I pick and pull, man, like you go to collectible shops and stuff, they have these tubs of just like broken toys, all kind of stuff down there that nobody is really tripping off of. I go down there, man, and just pull up all kind of things because one part added to the next. You'd be surprised what you come up with. Right now, it's just kind of like paint figures, but when I do like a lot of pick and pulling and gluing and painting and all that kind of stuff and cutting and carving up with razor blades, it's just so fun.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. People be surprised what they find in secondhand stores.
Oh yeah,
So
man.
good.
Yeah.
My dad.
So good.
My dad really loved going down to the Goodwill store, and he'd usually come back with an armload of things. But one time he comes back, he shows me something he pulled from the Goodwill store, which I just couldn't believe.
Right.
He come back with
A human child.
I wouldn't put it past him. Thing is, my mom would have shot him
Yeah.
if he had.
What's this?
But he come back. He shows me that he's got a new lens for the camera, and I'm talking about a lens for an SLR camera. I'm looking at that. I'm like,
that would have cost $5,000 probably.
No, I mean it was a like a $300 lens.
Oh, but still,
You know how much you paid for it?
Yeah, doubt.
$5.
$5 on the nose.
$5.
God, this
Wow.
guy.
$5 at a secondhand store. He finds a Canon SLR for again a Canon for a digital SLR camera.
Man.
Probably would have cost new in store probably about $200-300. Gets it for $5 at Goodwill.
That's
How
cool.
that happened, I don't know. Who in their right mind put something like that up at Goodwill?
Did your dad know how valuable it was? Or
Oh,
no?
oh yeah.
Okay.
No, my dad knew.
He probably
I
saw it and was like, couldn't believe it.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
dad probably saw that and it was in his hand within the microsecond
That's cool.
because my dad used to develop his own film.
That's
My
cool.
dad had a dark room set up in his old apartment
That's super
before
cool.
moving to the new house. So, and I still have some of the old darkroom equipment he used to have.
That's awesome.
But
yeah, yeah.
you know,
We
like,
used to have a dark room. Our control room used to be our dark room. Yeah.
like he had like the whole like bag that you're supposed to put the film in, and where you pop the cap and put it into
Nice.
the when you actually string it into the developing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he has I still have all of that stuff at home, but my dad was big into photography,
That's awesome.
and so yeah, when I got my camera, my digital SLR. He saw it and he went out and bought the same camera.
Awesome.
And then again, a couple of years later, he just happened to be going through Goodwill. He saw the lens and he's like, hey, you see this lens? I said, yeah, it's a great lens. Congratulations, good good thing. Where'd you find that? And he's like, Goodwill. I'm like, Goodwill.
Nice.
What's
That's
it doing at Goodwill?
always a good
And
answer.
he's like, you know how much I
Getting
paid for
lenses?
it? I'm like, $50. He said, $5. I said, what?
That's awesome.
He should have said 500 cents.
500 cents. I
You're
like
like,
that.
I knew it. 500. He said,
Sure.
he's like, no.
But yeah,
Man.
my dad knew his equipment, so that when nowadays I go through the Goodwill store the same reason. I'm hoping to find a similar bargain, and I can tell him to his grave. I'm like, yeah,
have-
hey Dad, guess what I found?
Man.
That's
stuff.
awesome.
You remember those old beta machines that used to have those smaller
Heck
tapes before
yeah.
the VHS came out?
Yeah,
I've got
yeah,
6 of them.
Man, I remember I used to run into those all the time. I had this one that did but it was so crazy because, beta was old,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, of course, before the era of VHS.
Yeah.
So to have a beta machine that actually had all this Wi-Fi, all this thump, and
That's
I'm
cool.
talking about had the meters. I mean,
Yeah.
had all this it was high-tech piece of beta machine. Really, the sucker was huge though,
Mhm.
but it did everything, and it was a beta.
Yeah.
And it was crazy, man. I had it for a long time.
I've got
That's
got
awesome.
2 of those at home.
Yeah,
That's
still work?
awesome.
Still work.
Cause I remember, man, my favorite movie on beta when it was released was Lost Boys. That's my favorite movie today.
That's
That's
great
the
movie.
The first one.
Yeah.
The first Lost Boys. But on beta, man, we had all kind of beta tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ghoulies.
superior video quality.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Only problem is that it was because of the small format. You couldn't get longer movies.
Mm-hmm.
So
That and it wasn't backed by the porn industry.
that was a thing. But
Yeah.
It really wasn't, huh? They didn't really have a lot of that I remember. I was a kid, kind of.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. But as a kid, you kind of you go to rent movies, you kind of
the other,
peek.
the other thing that really helped
Like not many of them.
VHS sort of win the war. Yeah. The other thing that helped VHS really win the war was that Panasonic embraced it as the format for their portable video cameras. So when they made their portable video cameras that would run on tape, they went with VHS because of the longer format, so you could film longer. And I know this because my dad had one, and I probably still have it someplace in one of the many rooms in my house.
Dope.
But I still have the camera, and I almost lost my hearing because of that damn camera.
What?
We were at an air show, and an F-14 took off a couple dozen yards away, and I was unable to, because I'm holding the camera up. I'm like,
Right.
oh, it's using the closer runway. Crap, I
That
can't actually
sucks.
cover my ear to stop this thing, and it took off. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
my hearing's going to be a little compromised for a few hours, but that could have been a lot worse.
Man. But so the beta machine, you couldn't get enough movie on it, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
But how was that? Because you have some beta releases that were on VHS release. It was just
because they don't use all the tape. You can get up to like 2 hours, I think, on a VHS, whereas on a Betamax it was 90 minutes.
Okay.
So they don't use all of it on the VHS format, but they you can get you can get a 3-hour tape in a VHS format, where the largest that you can do on beta, I think, was 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
It was a much higher. It was higher quality video, and if I remember correctly, higher quality audio as well.
Probably.
But because of the smaller format, it limited how much tape you could actually get.
Gotcha.
That's
Gentlemen,
fair.
I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. But when I
sure.
come back, I really want to talk about this thing that you found. It looks, is that also from your first campaign? You know what?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. When I come back.
Well, when you come back, we'll talk about this.
Cool.
But yeah,
All right,
this is what I was showing him
Let me
about.
take a,
So, but yeah, we'll discuss this in full when Steven gets back. But yeah,
Look at this.
you have quite a few of those Betamax machines at home because my dad was big into video audio recording. So
That's pretty cool. It's just well put, man. Yeah, definitely want to hear about that. Wanted to hear about that. I'm gonna put this guy in his curing box.
oh, is that what that is?
Yeah, just kind of like just set him here.
I like that.
So my little alabaster box. Every time I work on a figure, when I'm done with him, I kind of just. I'm gonna come back with this guy because I know basically in the places to hold him right now, and I got to do some more. It's gonna take me a while. I gotta do his head over.
Yeah, because it's a little thick.
Yeah.
But
When you get up close to him from a distance, you feel like, nah, but I need more.
maybe just a few passes with just the paint thinner,
Yeah.
and just almost dry brush the paint thinner, and maybe that'll give it enough.
Yeah, I think so. Because I was trying to catch it with the water to kind of stretch it,
Yeah,
but it had already dried up some.
it already dried up quite a bit by the looks of things. So like I said, you can just either water down some of the paint thinner and use that, or again just kind of dry brush it. So you just daub it in and then just kind of and then give it a real light coat, and it should thin it out enough to at least help expose more of the detail. And also because you have a black undercoat, that'll help bring a lot of the shadows in as well. So you won't have to do a lot of the detail work. The other option is you could, aside from just removing everything, is you could go in with a razor blade or an X-Acto knife to just pick out some of the details.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a lot more time consuming.
Then it's gonna probably it's gonna be. It can be. It wouldn't be much. This cheekbone.
You need the cheekbones, and also the side of the head has a lot of detail in there.
Yep. His lines. That's mainly what it is. If I leave his cuts alone, you can get away with just actually painting that guy silver. If you get away, but it's the color. It's the paint that I'm using. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull it off and use this paint. You better pull it off on that.
Yeah, with a nice shiny chrome like finish like that could work. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could already see the nice shine that it's got right there.
Yeah.
With just in the ambient light here, and it's not even doesn't even have any overcoats or anything going there. It's just the enamel of the paint.
That's pretty cool.
And if you had a black enamel to just touch up some of the darker areas,
that's where he's supposed
so
to
that
be
you
black
still
right here.
have the shine.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, sir.
So yeah, just a
Yes, sir.
little bit of black enamel on the inside to sort of do the inner chassis and give the shadow work, and then
Yeah, man.
should be done.
Oh yeah. And then you got to get where you can hold them. because the paint is smear.
I am
He
returned.
doesn't have those planks on his feet. I got to get to where I can clamp them on something and kind of just have a field day on them. Like normally, I like being able to stand them on stuff like this and just kind of, because I can get this dirty all I want to. Just don't touch the bottom of his feet.
Do you use a jeweler's magnifier to get the detail work, or you just
I have a
eyeball it?
couple like I normally do. And see, that's what I should have did before. I should have thought it, used my head a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's all good, cause that's what I could have used, the magnifying that I don't have in this kit. Got 2 of them. Just kind of do this here, and like I said, normally they're standing up and kind of see what I'm doing. That's all good.
You should look into the ones, if you don't have one, you might want to look into the ones that are used for like soldering, because they stand on their own. So it has the magnifier that has a little base there that you can position. That way you can just use your hands to hold the model and then the other hand to paint with, while the magnifier is just held right where you want it by the apparatus. And they use it for electronics and soldering work, but they also use it for jewelry making, so that they can like see the detail and hold it in place.
Exactly. Real.
So I was looking for this earlier, so
Dope.
I couldn't think of where I'd put it, but this is the guild contract that I basically created for my players.
Nice.
So oh shoot, I've been looking.
Whoa!
Didn't realize that there was chat. Sorry, my guys, that's on me.
I don't have any idea.
Board games category with the hashtag stuff in the title. Board game category. This is in no way D&D or maybe creative category. People are going crazy for it there. Yeah, no, we've been talking D&D on and off all stream. This is a special stream where we're pulling double duty, as you can see in the ticker, with Malachi's Toy Box. He is a good friend of ours, and we're happy to have him with us. And we didn't have time. Yeah, the only time slot that he had to join us was during our show. So he's Malachi is guest hosting with us. No, we're actually getting right back to the D&D right now, as a matter of fact.
Get back to the D&D.
Yeah, definitely. Super cool. So here we are with the Sword and Shield Adventurers Guild. So this is what does this have to, this is going back just like the map you made for your first campaign.
Yeah. So so in my first campaign, as a way of sort of getting the that's not going to work. Yeah.
Nope. Cool.
Go ahead.
But
Am I?
No, it's because the refresh.
Oh. I'm gonna
the refresh rate on the screen is actually causing interference with the camera.
Oh,
so you're seeing that sort of flicker effect.
I see.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. So for my first campaign, because I wanted all of the characters to be part of a guild to start with, though they were part of an adventurers guild, I actually wrote up a guild contract. And I kind of thought to myself, well, why would anyone join an adventurers guild? You're obviously there are people out there who are going to adventure freelance. What's the benefit of really joining a guild? And I thought, well, guilds, like anything, like any other union, is going to give you some sort of benefits. And I did some brainstorming and actually came up with a contract. And this thing has basically a breakdown of what the guild services are offered and also what is expected of the guild members. So this was basically my way of telling the players, this is part of your world. This is something that your characters would agree to. But it's also a way of saying, don't worry about certain things, because there's something that I have already built in game for you to take advantage of to sort of provide for you. And also, at the same time, here's a code of conduct that I want you as players to be aware of. And this is something that your characters have already signed, so be aware of this. I'm going to go over this just kind of quickly, because we can't actually show it on stream.
No worries.
So, the Sword and Shield Adventurers Guild, which is the largest guild of my world. It's the largest adventurers guild. There are others, but this is the largest. Contract of membership. These articles pertain to all members associated with the Sword and Shield Adventurers Guild, hereafter known as the Guild, and are legally and magically binding. As members of the guild, you are entitled to the following services: guild bank and storage. All guild members may deposit or withdraw monies and coinage at any guild-affiliated bank in exchange for a letter of credit redeemable for the full or partial value of the note.
Good for you for having this written in, legal language. Yeah.
The
You know what
the
you're doing.
one legal class that I actually had to take in college, and this is how it pays off.
Sounds good to me.
You can barely make out what you're saying because you're too high frame rate for most viewers.
Viewers won't even be able to see 60 frames. You're lagging and dropping frames on his end.
Badly.
Oh, on his end badly. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for letting us know, though.
So I'll slow it down a little bit. I wanted to go through this quickly so that you guys didn't get bored by the legalese,
No
but
worries. So games
double
are
camera.
best at 720/30.
Okay.
Twitch is twitchy. Interesting.
All
Gotcha.
right. Good
Cool.
to know.
Yeah. No, I am. You're the first person to have an issue, and no one has talked about, the quality settings we have here, so I could actually drop that down right now. So, John, go ahead and let him know, and I'll start changing this. Cool. Thank you, man.
So here it is. Basically, the first one is you can drop stuff off at the guild and have the guild banks essentially store money for you and have letters of credit issued to you, so you're not walking around with large sums of money on you. You just have letters of credit, which is lighter and easier to spend. So that's part of it's a free service that the guild offers, and the reason why it's free is because you pay guild membership fees, which covers this service. You also don't earn interest on anything, so that's why it's free. Guild lodgings. Members are free to sleep at any guild lodge or longhouse free of charge. Members are also permitted access to any amenities or services provided at these locations, though not all amenities or services are free of charge.
Gotcha. Cool. Thanks for sorry to interrupt you. Thanks for all the feedback, shaders. We have a courtesy monitor that's not very high quality, so I hope I'm reading your name right. Shadzar. Cool. Shadzar, thank you for the feedback. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we were doing character building, now we're doing world building, and gameplay is what's coming next. So we definitely are aware of that, but thank you for all the technical feedback and everything. We appreciate it. So take care, man.
By the way, I'll see is it possible that we can maybe post this later, like for you guys who maybe want to? We'll find a way of posting this on the website.
No, we have a way of posting it for sure.
So I'll make sure that they get this up so you guys can actually read this in more detail later.
We have a YouTube channel just for that, just to post videos we've already completed on Twitch.
Cool. So we can actually post the actual letter that you guys can actually download later. It's in Word format, but I can probably get it converted to PDF, and that shouldn't be an issue.
Totally. Yeah.
Let's see. So, guild lodgings, guild armory, which basically says that you guys can, or the guild members can basically turn their stuff in and have their stuff maintained for them. And it specifies to what level of stuff is covered by the services. It basically says anything up to journeyman level services are covered free of charge. Gotcha. Anything higher than that is going to incur a fee.
What's journeyman in this context?
When you're as part of a guild, especially like craftsman guilds, there's essentially 3 or 4 levels of standing that you have. So you have the apprentices, which are people who are just learning the stuff. So an apprentice level work is the first level stuff, and it's really basic. It's basic maintenance, basic polish and shine. Or it's the lowest level. It's where everyone starts. Journeyman is the next level, where you've completed your apprenticeship and you're actually allowed to work on projects.
Cool.
Okay.
So that's the second level of training. After that, you have artisan level, which is you're not working for somebody. A journeyman will work for a blacksmith or a jewel crafter, and they will do the work, but they are not the guys who are actually coming up with the designs. They're not the ones who are actually doing anything. They're doing the grunt work so that the artisans can do their job.
Gotcha.
And the finest artisans get the master title. So a master artisan, or when you submit your masterpiece to get labeled as an artisan, that is when you get the title of master.
Cool.
Or a master craftsman.
Cool.
So That is where we get the term masterpiece from. It is the piece that you turn into, or that you submit to the guild as something to be judged, and if it is worthy of being called a master's piece, basically it's like, yeah, you have attained with this piece. You have proven that you have attained the title of master. Therefore, we promote you to the title of master. You may now have artisans, and you can basically trade and bank on your name as a guild artisan.
Cool.
So they're the ones who get to form their own crafts marks. So you strike when a jeweler strikes their initials on there, or a blacksmith strikes their initials on a piece. Those people are going to be masters, and they have their own names on it. Otherwise, if it's someone of artisan level, they're using their master's sigil to stamp their name on it. So it was like, okay, well, it's under this guy. This guy was the guy who supervised. This is the guy who's that's the trademark. We work for the guy. So it's basically, once you've reached master's rank, it's it's a license to start your own business.
Cool. Way cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So
that's dope.
But that's sort of built into this, where you're saying it is for journeyman level and down. We'll cover the expensive fixing your armor up, because that's usually things like, well, you're gonna buff out a dent, maybe grind something, sharpen something. That's that kind of level.
Right.
If it's something like an actual break or rent in the armor, or you've cracked the sword and your sword has to be partially reforged, or has to have a burr really worked out of it, that's going to be an artisan level, and that's going to cost you.
Cool.
Wow. Cling, cling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you bang two swords together, or sword against any object, and that's going to get damaged.
Say, I need to hurry up and cut you, because I'm going to damage my sword, and it's going to cost me a whole lot of money. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, the next item is guild postings.
Cool.
Contracts and assignments are provided to members to be performed at will. The once accepted contracts are non-transferable. Upon completion of a contract to the satisfaction of the client, the members involved in the contract will be paid less damages and applicable guild fees. So, yeah. If you, just because you're hired to clean the rats out of the cellar of a farm, doesn't necessarily give you permission to run around and swing your sword at whatever moves. You damage something, you break it, you bought it, buddy.
Yeah, much.
And they're going to take that out of your sword.
What's that?
We're doing well.
Doing good. We're almost done here.
Yeah. As soon as we wrap up, we found just like the map that we were shown before, we found a contract for a guild membership from his original D&D campaign, or the one that was DMing.
I don't know. Do
You
you
play
want
character? It hadn't been discussed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I be
It's
a
really
dragon?
that's
I'm
like a
kidding.
stream unto itself, and we don't know how regular. Like we don't know if we're gonna be playing on. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
still
No worries.
we still have a couple of
Suck,
slots open. If you even if you just want to show up as a guest character.
Look, it's in our stream. No, it's cool. Hey, but yeah, I play with the ropes, man.
Yeah.
Let me know. This is all, it's kind of cool. I find it really interesting, man. I want to get more into it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You guys
if you definitely
are catching the bell.
if you want to make a character, just let me know. We'll help. I've got the books. We'll draw up a character for you, and you can, and I'll give you some pointers to sort of help you write your backstory. Just little seeds about the areas where you could be from, and you can just go write whatever you want from there. You are a writer, so I'm sure you'll have plenty of ideas of where you want your character to be from, and I can just kind of say, okay, well, judging from what you've written, logically you'd be from this region, And
Parts unknown.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of
Jim Hellwig.
Yeah, there's lots of the world. I mean, just because I have a map doesn't mean every part is charted. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm just been throwing it out there. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's definitely interesting. Just totally just go way with it. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Here's the more code of conduct stuff, and I put this in here again just so that the players have sort of something to work against, and they know that they're going to be held accountable for their actions. So, right into the part where it talks about how the guild gets their money from the players. It goes into the parts where it has damages. Any willful or accidental destruction of property or loss of life committed by guild members against clients are subject to a were guild and are deducted from the total earnings of the contract and as damages. Excessive cost in damage falls squarely upon those members who committed the acts and may result in expulsion from the guild and possible incarceration by local authorities. If you go around killing everybody, don't be mad if the guild kicks you out and you find yourself in prison. What that translates as.
You don't have any players who do anything that chaotically, just like, screw you guys, I'm going to run off and kill all these people, everyone we encounter.
Hasn't happened yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. You abide by the laws of the land. All guild members are expected to follow and abide by the laws in the regions in which they operate. Those found to be committing crimes and or using guild materials or facilities to commit acts of crime will be handed over to the authorities and have their guild membership revoked and any guild holdings seized. Members who use the guild bank or storage services to hide or hold stolen materials and or monies will likewise be subject to incarceration and seizure and revocation of membership. You steal and use us to try and hide your crimes, we'll seize everything that you've had us hold and make sure you get punished for it. So, the guild covering its ass, like any good legal institution should. Acting in accordance with the contracts and so on and so forth. But the last thing is, you represent the guild. Members are expected to act as representatives of guilds at all times. Those who continually exhibit behavior not becoming of a member of society will have their membership pulled for review and may be dismissed from the guild. So you go around starting fights, fights in bars and civilized areas, and the guild gets wind of it. They might say, "Okay, come here, let's have a chat, because you're one of us. You can't go around starting fights no matter where you go. If you have a problem with that, let's talk about your guild membership."
Exactly. Gotta snatch it.
And the last section, which is always my favorite. The guild is not liable for any loss of life or injury. Members assume all risk while undertaking guild contracts. In the event a member dies or goes for a period of 5 years without contact with the guild, then the guild will disperse any remaining items or monies of the deceased to the beneficiaries appointed by the deceased. Again, more legal language basically says, all this risk is on your own head, buddy. So if you die or if you get hurt, you can't blame the guild for that. You chose the contract. You chose to do the job. It's on your head, buddy.
Make your bed, lay in it. Right? Pretty much.
And if you happen to die or if you go missing for a certain number of years, then we're going to consider you dead and hand out your possessions to whoever you said was supposed to receive it. And any remains will be treated with all the custom and care requested by the deceased. So if you want a lavish funeral, they'll take it out of your guild fees and make sure that
death does not remove you from the fact that you're going to owe a little bit more than you think.
And then,
crazy.
Or if you just want your body just thrown out on the curb, well, that might not be legal in the country you're in, but
we can find one where it is.
They'll properly dispose of your corpse in the least costly way as the deceased requests, and then dispersed there.
Right.
Most people say they don't care. They won't be around to care, but technically you're around, you'd be like...
And depending on what race you play in D&D, you could be around to care for a very long time.
Very long time, or have lots and lots of people. That could not have timed out better, my camera dying. Or have people who live and surpass you and care. But yeah, that was great, John. That was as in-depth and as caring as ever as anything else you've ever written. So that was super cool. So yeah, that's a great stream. Thank you everybody for coming up. Thank you Malachi from Malachi's Toy Box for coming by and doing his thing. It's been too long since we've had you, so I'm really glad.
Hopefully we'll get you back out here sooner, maybe for a game or two.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be cool. We come with something a little more juicy. Yes.
Yeah.
He's my humor.
Yeah, hopefully next time we
That's
see you,
crazy.
that Shira thing will be finished as well.
Yeah. What I hope to do is maybe just have it like finished, and we can just talk about it. You know what I mean? Because as you see, is it like I'll be sitting here just making something, and it'd be like, or just maybe putting a finished touch up on something.
Yeah.
Robbie had an idea before. It's like
I would have to get like do little figures though, like basically work on